Good afternoon. I ask the members of the jury if you can stand here because I'm going to make a short presentation of all the members of the jury. Welcome to the pitch competition. This is one of the most exciting sessions of this event. Basically, 20 students, I think 19 because there's one missing, are going to present the PhD work that they are doing in 3 minutes, and then they will be evaluated by the members of the jury. So starting from my right, far right, is João Paulo Leal. He's a research chemist working at CQE. He's a researcher also at the Department of Engineering and Nuclear Sciences, and he has a PhD in molecular energetics from Técnico University of Lisbon. Then I present Paulo Dimas. He's currently the CEO at Center for Responsible AI, and previously he served as Vice President of Babel, as you know, a world-leading AI startup. Thank you also for coming. Then Anna Lanham, I said correctly? Yeah. She is an assistant professor at the Department of Bioengineering. Formerly, she was a lecturer at the University of Bath in the UK. She's a researcher at EBB, and she holds a PhD in biochemical engineering from Nova University. Thank you also for accepting this invitation. And on my close right, Joana Lobantunes. She's a professor of science communication at the Department of Mineral and Energy Resources here at IST, Energy Resources Engineering, sorry, at IST. She's also the head of the Communication, Image and Marketing of Técnico since 2020. Thank you also for joining us. And myself, I'm Miguel Alabot. I'm a professor at the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and I'm the president of this jury. So without any further delays, we are going to sit down, and then each of you, I wish you all the luck, will be called, and you have 3 minutes, and when it's 10 seconds to stop, you will hear a sound, so that means you will have to stop in 10 seconds, and after 10 seconds, there's you will notice that you should shut up. So, okay, good luck, and we'll see each other in a moment. Okay.
Ana Filipa Duarte.
Hello. Have you ever thought about if we can listen to the ocean and study it by only listening to it? Yes, that's what my thesis proposes. We can use acoustic waves to study the ocean structure in a field called seismic oceanography. We use acoustic waves and we propagate them in the water column. When they encounter differences in temperature and salinity, some part of them reflect and we can hear them in the hydrophones at the surface. After that, we process the signal with a processing workflow and we retrieve a 2D image of the ocean. It's like a snapshot of the water structure in depth. And we can see that we have high detail in these images. Why is this relevant? Because the deep ocean is very important to control our Earth's climate, but it is a very harsh environment to go there and study it exhaustively and rapidly. Conventional oceanography takes measurements with sensors that are deployed and go deep in the water and collect data in the distant stations. But infer what's in between, by interpolation, for example, it gives us a very smooth model. And that's why we have seismic oceanography. We can use the seismic images to retrieve temperature and salinity of the water by a process called seismic inversion. In my thesis, we specifically studied 2 regions of Portugal, the Madeira Abyssal Plain and the southwest Iberia margin. In the Madeira Abyssal Plain, we were able to image thermo-aligned staircases, which are layers of different temperature and salinity that mix together, but in a very slow pace, through double diffusion. We could see them in the seismic, and we could see their extent in the region. In the southwest Iberian margin, we have a more influence or higher influence of the Mediterranean outflow water, which is warmer and saltier, and we can image that flow of the water near our coast. After having that, we applied seismic inversion to both scenarios, and we end up with a very high detailed model of temperature and salinity for those regions. This is important and very great advantage for oceanography, because there's a lot of seismic data worldwide from the, for example, oil and gas industry that can be used to study the oceans in the past, in the present, and also helping predicting the future. Thank you very much.
Bárbara de Jesus.
Hello, everyone. Well, I'm Barbara, as it was already presented. I will start my pitch by doing you all a very simple question. That is, have you ever gone to the beach? You are probably thinking, of course, like, what do you mean? We are in Portugal. But have you ever gone to the beach full of algae, as it is in this picture? Well, you've seen a lot of seaweeds in the beaches, I'm sure, but probably not as bad as this. Well, let me tell you that this is a problem all over the world, Portugal included, as you can see in this news. Well, this is where my PhD comes in. That I'm trying to give value to these seaweeds because it creates environmental problems, because it affects other ecosystems on the ocean, and also economical one because the Portuguese government spends a lot of money every year cleaning our beaches, and they don't do anything with these seaweeds. So to their eyes, this is a bio-waste that costs money. Well, so here I am trying to valorize these seaweeds, this bio-waste, by extracting value-added compounds from them so that can be further used in different applications, such as the ones here presented. Well, to do that, I'm trying to follow the advices given by the European Union, where they defend that we should obtain the minimal waste possible at the end of the process. To do that, I'm trying to make the full valorization of these bio-waste, and to do so, I'm trying to make a sequential valorization process. And to establish this sequential process, I'm trying to follow this pyramid that is defended by the European Union, where we should first start with the most valuable compounds and end on the least valuable. But we want to add another challenge into the table, which is to replace conventional solvents with new green biocompatible solvents. To do that, I'm taking honey as my principle, that is a mixture of sugars that at room temperature is liquid, viscous but liquid. And what I aim to do here is to make new mixtures, not only using sugars, but perhaps other groups of compounds that interact between them and form biocompatible solvents that can be used in my process. And this comes complete the puzzle that is my PhD. So I started this speech with a question, and I will end with another one. That is, will be the sea a new source of compounds? Well, from my work, I can say it can be for sure. Thank you.
Beatriz Martins.
Hello everyone, my name is Beatriz Martins and I'm finishing my PhD in environmental engineering. My research is a bit unusual for a person who loves sunny, warm weather. I study the mercury cycle in thermokarst lakes of the Arctic and subarctic. These are relatively small lakes that form when permafrost, that is frozen soil, starts to thaw, collapses, and creates areas where water can accumulate. And you ask me, why should I care about a very small lake that is so far away from here? Well, because due to climate change, permafrost is thawing at a very rapid pace, and these small lakes have been appearing in a huge number across northern landscapes. And permafrost is not only soil, but is also a massive freezer full of organic matter, nutrients, and also contaminants, such as mercury. And when it thaws, it releases everything into the environment. Under the right conditions, such as in lakes filled with organic matter, bacteria can take mercury and transform it into methyl mercury, that is a much more potent neurotoxin that can easily bioaccumulate and biomagnify through food webs. So my research aims to address how this happens in these lakes. I've been collecting samples in different permafrost regions and also in different seasons, traveling to places with easy names such as Wapmagostoy-Kurujurapik and Kangiqsualujjuaq in northern Quebec, and also Fairbanks, Alaska, and Zackenberg in northeast Greenland. In these places, I've collected water and sediment samples and also run isotope tracer experiments with 2 different mercury isotopes to label inorganic mercury and methyl mercury. This approach allows me to track the formation and the degradation of methyl mercury at the same time and within the same sample, giving a precise view of the magnitude of each of these processes. This unique approach that combines field samples from different permafrost regions and this dual isotope tracer technique allows us to better understand the mercury transformations that happen in these small thermokarst lakes and their potential to form methyl mercury. And because permafrost thaw also enhances hydrological connectivity within the ecosystem, this methyl mercury that is formed in these small lakes can flow downstream and potentially reach fish-bearing waters, where there it poses a real threat to not only wildlife, but also northern communities that rely on these environments. My research will help us study the factors that improve methyl mercury production in these remote ecosystems, and also try to predict how these processes will evolve with ongoing permafrost thaw that is happening in the rapidly changing Arctic. Thank you very much.
Catarina Passarinho.
Hello everyone. As you may know, brain cancer is among the most common causes of cancer-related death and greatly impacts patients' quality of life. For most brain tumors, treatment includes surgical resection, radiotherapy, and chemotherapy. And for surgery and radiotherapy, medical imaging, and in particular MRI, is the basis for personalized treatment planning. To do this planning, tumor segmentation is a crucial step. Right now, the gold standard is manual segmentation by radiologists, but as I'm sure you can imagine, automating this process would expedite and improve patient care. And this is where deep learning has come in as a valuable tool. Most deep learning-based segmentation methods are trained using very large data sets that include 4 MRI volumes for each patient, and the target segmentation that is done manually, once again, and that includes multiple tumor regions. Once the model is trained, it can be introduced to new data and can output a segmentation that can then be used to inform treatment or for quantitative analysis, for example. However, some issues can arise. For example, we don't always have these 4 images for every patient, maybe due to time constraints or due to an uncooperative patient. And that would mean we can't obtain a segmentation for those cases. Additionally, we may need to segment images that are of a different type, for example, a different kind of brain tumor. And lastly, maybe the model we have is not the best for every single region of the tumor. Maybe different models yield better results for different regions. These are all issues that we come across frequently in this line of research and that hinder the implementation of these methods in the clinical environment. And my work that I came to share with you today is attempts to tackle these strategies to maybe one day bring them to the clinical practice. One of the strategies is relying on a shorter protocol for training, so only 2 images instead of 4. And these images are the most informative and are typically always acquired in patient follow-up and diagnosis. Additionally, I also try transfer learning, where we do multiple rounds of training with different data sets that have different characteristics, which results in a model that has knowledge from both of those data sets. And lastly, I tried ensemble learning, where we combined the outputs of 2 different segmentation methods. We evaluated all of these strategies, and we got some very encouraging results. And if you're curious to learn more about them, come visit poster 59. Thank you.
Diogo Silva.
How does a star die? As it burns up its fuel, the radiative pressure drops to 0. And then it's a direct confrontation between gravity and matter. Should the former win, the star will contract up to a point, forming a black hole. Otherwise, it will hold out as a compact object. Now, the state of matter during all of this process is unknown, as the conditions are extreme and these stars live too far away for us to probe them. So in our simulations, we use special frictionless fluids that see physics the same in all directions. It's simple and effective, but maybe it's too simple, as there are many stellar phenomena that still remain poorly understood. To help solve this, a new type of matter model has been proposed in the form of elasticity. The idea is simple. Imagine that as the geometry of space-time is bent by the presence of matter, it tries to resist and stay in a relaxed state. It's a promising idea, but it's much more complicated due to its local nature, so no realistic solutions have been obtained. Or rather, until recently, as my supervisor and I have found that there is a special class of stars that straddle the fine line between the formation of a black hole and the failure to do so, giving us the smallest possible black holes. We have seen that as the collapse goes on, the profile of these stars evolves as a continuous echo, inching ever so closer to the final moment and point of the star's life. The space and time bending is so intense that the shockwave forms and the star is torn apart into 2 different regions. The outer one, where matter is flung away from the star, and the inner one, where it is compressed and thrown into the singularity right at the center. Now, these solutions are simple by design. However, they provide us an important stepping stone into more complex scenarios. And we know that those more complex scenarios will echo many of the features that we have found here. Now, this is a research topic that I find important and want to continue investigating, as in their life cycle, first in life and then in death, stars fuse protons into most of the chemical elements that we find around us. And furthermore, they also impose the stellar dynamic that facilitates the celestial dynamics and thus the environments that we see in the universe around us. So in this regard, stars are actually engines of creation, and gravitational collapse and the state of matter play a central role in all of this. So yes, understanding those will help us understand better how stars die, but also how the universe truly lives. Thank you very much.
Gonçalo Figueiredo.
Good afternoon, my name is Gonçalo Figueiredo, and today I will show you a way to generate energy and communicate, particularly in the context of smart cities. So nowadays, the significant growth of volume of data and the Internet of Things connected devices raises a series of problems, especially for radio frequencies communications that have limited bandwidth and face a strong attenuation through walls and equipment. A complementary solution is the use of visible light communications. That basically is the use of the LEDs that are installed above us to provide illumination and transmit high-rate data at the same time. However, this technology has some limitations, such as the limited field of view and the strong line of sight dependence. In parallel, the urban energy efficiency demands zero energy buildings which balance demand with on-site renewables. Integrating photovoltaic panels into buildings is promising. However, it reduces natural light and constrains architectural design. Our approach is to use luminescent solar concentrators, which is a transparent material that absorbs the light, downshifts its wavelength, and guides it to the edges. In the edges, we mount photovoltaic cells, and we can generate electricity. Moreover, these LSCs can act as VLC data receiver because they have a large area to collect the data. So in my PhD, we integrate both VLC and LSC. For that, we developed a large-scale prototype consisting of 2 LSC's windows. Each window is based on the SEBS films, is doped with Europio and terbium. And as a transmitter, we use a commercial LED. So we validate our concept. So in terms of energy, both LSCs produce more energy than an integrated IoT system consumes. And in terms of data communication, we have been tested on-off-keying modulation scheme and quadrature modulation, and we obtained these results. So in conclusion, integrating LSCs and VLCs within zero-energy buildings, we can integrate photonic devices, information and communication technologies, and Internet of Things. Thank you.
Joana Santos.
Good afternoon. So today I'm going to present my PhD project that focuses on antibody-drug conjugates to overcome drug resistance in colorectal cancer therapy. Colorectal cancer is one of the most common and lethal cancers worldwide, and although there are many therapeutic strategies for this type of cancer, this high mortality is mainly associated with a metastatic disease, and for that there are not many therapeutic options. Cetuximab is one of the few targeted therapies available for the metastatic setting, and this is an antibody that can bind specifically to colorectal cancer cells. But let's see what happens inside one of these cells. So the majority of colorectal cancer cells overexpresses the epidermal growth factor receptor, to which cetuximab binds and inhibits, downregulating the intracellular signaling pathways. However, out of the eligible patients, around half of them are resistant to this therapy. A recent study showed that tumors expressing high levels of EGFR effector protein PLC-gamma1 are associated with this resistance, since this protein will bind to a different protein, the SHP2, being able to sustain the intracellular signaling pathways that lead to cell proliferation. However, they also found that when co-treating the cells with both cetuximab and the SHP2 inhibitor, the cells would become more sensitive to this treatment. Nonetheless, while cetuximab is highly specific, the inhibitor is not specific, and so it will distribute throughout the body and not only at the tumor site. Our project aims to overcome this limitation, and for this we are taking cetuximab, an already approved drug, and SHP099, which is a SHP2 inhibitor currently in clinical trials, and we are binding the two of them with a linker, creating an antibody-drug conjugate. Moreover, we are also adding a radioactive moiety, so we can do SPECT imaging to track the distribution of the compound in the body. This way, all of these different moieties will target the colorectal cancer cells, providing us with a highly specific compound with low toxicity in healthy tissues. So with this, we have a single platform that can target both EGFR and SHP2, sensitizing the tumors to cetuximab treatment and also capable of being used for image-guided drug delivery. Summarizing, out of this whole population of patients eligible for cetuximab therapy, around half of them will respond. However, the other half will not respond from the beginning or will end up developing resistance at a later stage. Our ultimate goal, if successful, is to take these non-responsive patients and increase their response, potentially benefiting metastatic colorectal cancer patients' quality of life and life expectancy. And so with this, I thank you for your attention, and I invite you to come visit my poster if you want to learn more about this work and to see some of our results. Thank you.
Kristen Schuller.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Schuller. I'm a PhD student at the Institute of Bioengineering and Bioscience, and today I want to show you how I'm reinventing osteoarthritis research and why it is so important to transition from mice to mini joints. Osteoarthritis is the most common joint disease, mainly affecting cartilage, which is the white smooth tissue at the end of our bones in joints like the knee, which allows us to walk smoothly. In osteoarthritis, this tissue degenerates and inflames the joint, leading to pain, immobility, and secondary diseases like diabetes. More than 600 million people worldwide suffer from this disease, causing a huge socio-economical burden. So far, there is no cure. And one reason might be that research still relies a lot on animals, like mice and rabbits. However, their joints look nothing like ours, so the results we obtain don't translate well into the clinic. And this is where my research work kicks in. I aim to create a human-relevant mini joint in the lab, a so-called in vitro model. For this, I'm using human cells from joints of different individuals, and I grow them in the lab. I also use a cell line, which was genetically modified to produce a large amount of cartilage-specific components, kind of a mini bioenterprise. These components I include in my biomaterial formulation and to 3D print a self-designed bioinstructive scaffold. This construct mimics the structure and the biomechanics of human cartilage. But more importantly, I also achieve a size which is comparable with the thickness and the defect size that we find in human joints, and therefore superior to what we find, for example, in mouse and rabbits, where the cartilage is thinner and organized differently. Also, when it comes to mechanical loading, a mouse on its 4 legs is not comparable to the human joint. To be able to integrate this mechanical stimulus in my model, I designed a small chamber, which is called a microphysiological system, where I put the construct with the cells and they can grow and mature. Here I can apply different mechanical cues, like pressure and fluid shear stress, to simulate walking and overloading. In these confined conditions, I can also induce and enhance the inflammation by using small molecules which are normally secreted within the human body. With this approach, we obtain a physiological in vitro model of cartilage in health and disease that we can use to better understand the disease, to find better drug targets, and in the end, to develop more effective and personalized medicines, all without the need of animals. And with this, I would like to thank everyone for your attention and for whom makes this project possible.
Mariam Salati.
Hello, everyone. Here I'm going to talk about the importance of integrating life cycle assessment, and this is an essential step towards achieving net zero emission buildings. The European strategic agenda aims to achieve climate neutrality by 2050, which means reaching net zero greenhouse gas emission need a comprehensive approach. Key strategies for this goal include decarbonizing energy sector, investing in green technologies, and enhancing energy efficiency in buildings. But buildings are central to this challenge. They currently account for around 40% of total energy use and 36% of CO2 emission across Europe. Yet, these impacts haven't been totally addressed in the traditional approach. That's why whole life carbon assessment plays a critical role in supporting European 2050 goals by addressing both embodied and operational carbon. But it's important to remember that the global warming impact of buildings change over time due to the long lifespan of buildings and potential for change in usage pattern over time, and shift toward dynamic life cycle is essential. These influencing change, these change influenced by different evolving factors. For example, shifts in energy systems or technological advances or a change in the rate of recycling rates. But dynamic LCA take these temporal variation into account, providing a more accurate and realistic picture of how emission evolve throughout the building life cycle. So the key question here is what solution can simplify this process? Thank you.
Miguel Graça.
What is the future of medicine? Well, the answer is inside you. While I was sitting there waiting for my turn, I was looking at this great audience and thinking how many different people are here today. Which might seem like a random thought, but we have to take into account that among us we share 99% of our DNA information, and yet there is a tremendous variety in our features. This simple 1% difference is enough to explain why someone has blonde hair and blue eyes and I don't. However, it's also enough to explain the absence or presence of certain well-known diseases such as Alzheimer's or type 1 diabetes, which are prevalent in at least 1% of the world population. Indeed, the occurrence of these diseases cannot be explained solely by one singular genetic variation, but is the consequence of the interaction between multiple genetic variants. And so this poses two problems. First, how can we process the complete human genome, which has over 6 billion base pairs, to find out all genetic variants? And second, how can we analyze the complete search space of genetic interactions, considering that we have at least 1 million variants identified? And that's where my PhD thesis comes in. By leveraging artificial intelligence and high-performance computing, I am working to implement fast and efficient solutions to both these problems. On one hand, I am developing novel algorithms to leverage the unused potential of current computational systems to develop fast genetic variant calling on long DNA sequences. On the other hand, I am also developing new explainable artificial intelligence models that interpret these variants and are capable of selecting the most relevant ones to explain the presence or absence of diseases in people, turning a problem that would take millennia to solve into an algorithm that runs within minutes. By merging these two worlds together, I am hoping that the results of my research will help not only biologists find new variants and new genetic interactions, but also improve the knowledge that we have of our own genome to develop cures to these diseases to benefit all of you, the audience here today. Thank you for listening.
Nishat Khan.
Good afternoon, one and all. My name is Nishat Khan, and I am doing PhD in materials engineering. Today, I am presenting my PhD work, creative utilization of recycling waste carbon residue from spent lithium-ion batteries for the application of supercapacitor. Today's world demand for sustainable and clean energy solutions with the growing use of electric devices and electric vehicle, the electric waste is rising and making the recycling essential for circular economy. Over 50 billion batteries consumed annually, and escalating the demand of recycling is crucial for reducing the environmental pollution. Spent batteries or old batteries contains critical raw material that can be used for future application to sustain economic stability and environmental conservation. Hydrometallurgy is the industrial method, most common industrial method that are being used for recycling batteries. And in that, the concentrated acid is used to dissolve all the precious metal present inside the batteries, but the waste carbon residue is generated as a byproduct, and they treated it as a waste. So our goal is to utilizing the waste carbon residue as a novel electrode material for supercapacitor application. Supercapacitor is the energy storage device which has advantages like high power density, long cycle life, high rate capability. So how we can add the value to the waste carbon residue? Because it has poor electrochemical response. We can add the value by various methods like functionalizing the waste carbon residue, or by the exfoliation, or by the heat treatment. But exfoliation and heat treatment are the time and energy intensive. So I went with the functionalization of the electrode to prepare a novel electrode for supercapacitor. I proposed two methods, like one is electroless deposition of manganese oxide, and second is electropolymerization of polypyrrole. With this method, the advantages is I am combining the cheap material with the secondary waste of the batteries, and it is environmental friendly and without consuming heat and energy. It is cost effective also, and easily scalable for the industry purpose. And from the electrochemical result, I can show you like the bleach black mass that was the waste carbon. If you compare with the novel electrode that I prepared, the specific capacitance is much higher, and I also prepared the symmetric cell which has energy density and power density. In the conclusion, I can say, thank you so much.
Pedro Gonçalves.
Every 4 seconds, someone dies of cancer. The scientific and medical community have saved millions of lives, but for too many patients, we failed. Cancer remains one of the oldest enemies of humankind. When we treat cancer, we are really sending firefighters on foot to extinguish a massive fire, and these firefighters are our cancer drugs. But here's the problem. We send them without a fire truck. No transport, no way to reach the fire. As such, over 99% of cancer drugs never reaches the tumor. It's all about location. What we need is a way to get the firefighters directly into the flames. Today, I'm here to tell you that nanoparticles are like tiny fire trucks. We can load cancer drugs inside nanoparticles, and nanoparticles will deliver them to the tumor. But what does it mean to be nano-sized? Well, it means that you can stack up to 400 nanoparticles on top of each other and get the thickness of one human hair. Until today, we have already over 20 nanoparticles approved for cancer treatment, and yet patients still die. Why? Well, even nanoparticles face a major obstacle: the liver. The liver is the body's filtration system. It recognizes and destroys foreign objects, such as nanoparticles. What if I told you that the solution to this problem has been inside us all along? Yes, in our body we have plenty of nanoparticles. We call them extracellular vesicles, or EVs, and because they are derived from our own cells, our body, our liver, is less likely to recognize them as invaders. As such, extracellular vesicles can navigate stealthily throughout our body, carrying therapeutic cargoes that will be delivered to the tumor, just like a Trojan horse. So in my PhD, I'm isolating extracellular vesicles from human blood. You can actually see them here under the electron microscope, and I am searching for innovative ways to further improve their efficiency. Until now, I've discovered a small protein, P28, that when attached to the surface of these vesicles improves targeting of breast cancer, including the most aggressive subtype, the so-called triple-negative breast cancer. You can think of P28 as a surface extension, a tiny hand that grabs onto the tumor cells and buys the cancer drugs more time to do their job. Until today, there are no EV-based formulations available on the clinic because it takes around 15 years to go from the lab to your medicine cabinet. But we can afford to wait, because in just these 3 minutes, over 40 people died from cancer. With collaboration, perseverance, and imagination, we will be able to harness the full potential of our own body nanoparticles, to reduce harm to healthy organs, to improve the quality of life, and save the lives of future patients. Thank you.
Ricardo Dias.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. So my presentation is entitled Circular Carbon Economy Framework for Promoting Industrial Symbiosis, which is also the same title of my PhD thesis. So without further ado, let's move into some motivation on why I'm doing this work. So we have seen in some other presentations, we are living through a climate crisis. We know that this is prompted by carbon emissions. Well, I will assure you, I won't try to solve it just by myself, but I will try to give some input to the industry to maybe try to reduce slightly our environmental impacts. So my PhD starts with gathering industrial data, real industrial data with partners, then try to gather a catalog of possible carbon capture utilization technologies that we can implement straight away and quickly deploy them. And for this, develop an optimization model in which we'll try to come up with possible symbiotic routes between existing enterprises and the introduction of a CCU unit, and then do some kind of proof of concept. So onto the optimization model, and I will say this is the only mathematical thing that I will show to you today. So the model currently tries to maximize possible exchanges between enterprises, also trying to exchange residue, so thus prompting circular economy. Also, these two terms that I present to you here try to implement the CCU unit into the industrial park, and this is time discrete as well. I also present to you here just an equation showing you that this is a net flow formulation. So the framework starts with the industrial park data. We then perform an LCA to get our environmental data, and then perform an optimization model, use our optimization model to come up with a new industrial park configuration, which then is reassessed with LCA, thus coming up with a new, more sustainable industrial park. So our database, superstructure, and sustainability assessment, also with the optimization, is working together, trying to achieve a more sustainable industrial park. So in terms of results, in just a slight view here on what we have come up with, we, by studying one industrial park in Portugal, we have achieved already more than 30 possible exchanges, thus implementing circular economy and reducing our environmental impacts, and also the introduction of a CCU unit here producing methanol, because it can be used in other companies in this industrial park that we have studied. So with this, we will try to promote circular economy, and thank you so much for listening in.
Shamir.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Shamir, and today I'll talk about or give you insights about CCUS. What is CCUS? CCUS carbon capture, utilization, and storage. CCUS is one of the key pillars for achieving net zero, especially for hard-to-abate industries. That is power, steel, cement, that accounts for 40% of your global emission. Even though it's a promising technology, it has challenges. And one of the biggest challenges is, it is a slow deployment because of very high cost. And why is it so expensive? Because the requirement of ultra-high pure CO2 stream across the value chain, that is capture, transport, enhanced oil recovery, or storage. This led me to a fundamental question. How can we make CCUS more affordable? Can it happen if we reduce purity? And this is where I come in. Geological techno-economic numerical tool that allows you to calculate economic feasibility across the whole value chain. The tool, Geotech, uses real operation data of 11 power plants and process industries, and has 8 operation power plants with this bypass system. This This controls the composition of your CO2 stream, which can later be transported through pipelines onshore and offshore, and later injected in a geostorage environment, all in an oil reservoir for enhanced oil recovery. To look at the potential of geotech, we did a comparative analysis between 100% pure CO2 stream and an 80% CO2 stream that is 500 kilometers away from this consortium of power process and power industries. And we see that as we reduce purity, we reduce capture cost. Why? Because now you have smaller and downsized energy-intensive capture plants. However, we lose money at transport and storage places because now you're using stainless steel pipelines and turbo machinery for accommodating for impurities. But if you look at holistically, we save around 9%. That translates to $15 per ton of gas injected. This results and the future research in this geotech environment is a testimony that CCUS can be made more affordable, paving the way for wider and faster deployment across industries, thus turning the vision of net zero into a reality in years, but not in decades. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be there during the coffee break.
Shima.
What is quality of experience? Quality of experience is the feeling you get when an image looks good, when colors are natural, details are sharp, and everything looks good. Quality of experience is about how we feel after experiencing digital multimedia content, especially images. Quality of experience is about us, is about humans, is about our feeling. In our world, we took and shared billions of images, and we expect them all to be perfect, whether it's a holiday photo or a medical image or a movie scene. But here is the challenge. In order to transfer them, we need to compress them. So compression is essential. Without it, our device would fill up just after a few hundreds of photos. With compression, introduce artifacts, as I call them, scars, like blocky, blurry, or color shift. At high bitrate and quality, those scars are so small, but still we can perceive them and impact our quality of experience. So the question is, how can we measure the quality of high fidelity images? Before I tell you the solution, let me introduce myself. My name is Shima. I'm a fourth-year PhD student at Istituto Superior Técnico, and my research focuses on image quality assessment. To assess high-fidelity images, we designed a new subjective test methodology based on pairwise comparison and artifact boosting. In our method, participants simply shown two images side by side, and they have to choose the one that they prefer most. Based on the collected judgment, and we estimate the quality of images and build a perceptual scale that reflects even the smallest difference between original uncompressed image and the compressed image. The good news is that our method was so good that it's on track to become an ISO standard. That means in global, it's going to be used as global reference standards for evaluating high fidelity images. But we didn't stop here. We took it further. We designed a framework to automatically predict the human preferences plus the associated uncertainty in its predictions. That means in case of high uncertainty, we defer the decision to humans, otherwise we rely on our predictions. This way, human and machines work together for efficient subjective tests. In summary, with improved quality assessments, we can give feedback to compression codecs to improve their efficiency, and that's it. Thank you.
Sila Pereira.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sila. I would like to start my pitch presentation with a question. Do you know how much areas was burned in 2017 in Portugal? I can answer this question. According to the Portuguese National Statistic Agency, the number was nearly 560,000 hectares, which is equal to the 56% of European total burnt area in European Union in a year. Unfortunately, we are in the zone, we are facing the same problems every summer, and we are having the catastrophic outcomes. According to the same report, which was prepared from the Statistic Agency of Portugal, we can see that the biggest peak in 2017. And according to the report, one of the results was that wildfires were happened because the forestry areas was not clean for more than 20 years. That's why this problem, and also adding the global problems that we are facing, the global warming, climate changes, and the global energy crisis, unfortunately, we are feeling lately more. To overcome all these problems, me and my supervisors, we have a proposal to overcome all these problems and also combine the bioenergy and electrochemistry. For this reason, actually, I already have some results, but I didn't have time to share all of this with you. So the plan here, we are collecting the woody biomass, especially dried ones, but the samples we use, this is basically from that fire which occurred in 2017 in Pedrógão Grande. Sorry for my accent. So we perform the thermal reaction, namely thermochemical liquefaction, in order to produce the bio-oil. And afterwards, when we have the bio-oil, of course, this is a type of bio-oil we can use directly, or we can use it more specifically for my PhD work. We can use it like as a carbon source, and we can feed them with the water to initiate the water electrolysis. And the novelty here, we use the solar panels, the energy generated from the solar panels, and we use the renewable energy for this reaction. This is the pilot unit that is located in Isel. So in the end, we obtain the syngas. What is syngas? Syngas is a mixture of carbon monoxide and the hydrogen. But the main focus here is the hydrogen, because we can use this hydrogen as an energy source, or we can convert it into the second generation biofuels. And like this, we can have a better, sustainable, and greener future for all of us. Thank you.
Sofia Agostinho.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start with a question. Can you please raise your hands if you know someone suffering from Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson, or any other type of dementia? Well, so as we can see, we know lots of people with these diseases. And I do not have great news, because it is estimated that 1 in each 4 of us will start to develop a neurodegenerative disease throughout life. Aging is a major risk factor for neurodegeneration, and as the population is aging, the problem is getting worse. Another unfortunate news is that there is currently no treatment for brain aging. In fact, drug development pipelines are failing us dramatically. We have more than 90% of the compounds entering clinical trials and failing, and we would take 15 years and spend billions of dollars to have a new successful drug. But why do drug development pipelines fail? There are lots of reasons, but one of them is the lack of suitable disease models. Till now, we rely greatly on animal models, which showcase whole body complexity, but from decades of experience, we already know that the good results in animals rarely translate to humans. Stem cell-derived disease models are a promising tool to uncover some of these problems with the animal models. However, they are highly immature and lack a key feature, the aging itself. So what do we need to do? Age our stem cell-based models. My contribution to this challenge during my PhD is to develop Scoring Age. In partnership with PerAI, a Portuguese startup that focuses on the accelerating drug development for brain disorders, we gathered a database of brain aging multi-data cellular multi-omics data. Then we are using machine learning to derive key biomarkers for age prediction. In the end, I will use these biomarkers derived from patients with neurological disorders to evaluate our cellular models for their aging capacity. With my PhD project, I aim to give both scientific community and the industry a new robust strategy to evaluate cell-based models for neuronal aging, setting up the ground for a reliable, robust, and more accurate drug development pipeline.
Sofia Fernandes.
Hello, let me show you my work, which focuses on how I use solar light to clean waters. I mainly focus on pharmaceuticals, antibiotics that get into our water system through different sources. One of them being the pharmaceutical industry, which is very present in Portugal and is actually producing minocycline, the antibiotic I'm working with. It poses a threat to the environment and also to humans, so we need to address this. The way I do it is through photocatalysis, which is a chemical reaction initiated by light in the presence of a photocatalyst. My light of choice would be the sunlight due to its abundance and because it's free. However, most photocatalysts only work in the UV region, which is only about 4% of the solar light, making the process inefficient. So what I do is engineering of these materials using dopants that have the capability of changing infrared or visible light into UV light that can then be utilized by the photocatalyst. When we synthesize these materials, we found some side effects that were beneficial also for the photocatalysis. For example, they reduce the size of the photocatalyst, increasing the area, surface area where the reaction can happen. And also, they introduced some surface changes that resulted in a better affinity of the pollutant with our catalyst. However, there's one more caveat. These materials are very small. They are nanomaterials, making it challenging to be adopted in the industry. So we created another class of materials called microscavs that are microspheres with meso and macroporosity that can be tailored to your needs. We use them as an immobilization platform for the nanomaterials, for the photocatalyst, to ensure easy handling, recyclability, and robustness. Our results show that this system is has better photocatalytic performance on the solar light than the benchmark photocatalyst. And not only in the laboratory, but also with real wastewater matrices. And our material also works without the strict need for UV light. We tried the recyclability test to see if it maintains its performance, which it did. And we also developed a proof of concept new reactor design, which shows that this system is possible to use in a continuous flow setup, which is more attractive for the industry. Thank you.
And now Pedro Martim.
Okay. It's the longest ever 3-minute thesis presentation. Okay, so imagine that you still want to travel to your favorite street with your favorite restaurant, or sharing your new set of drums with some friends, or visiting your favorite museum in London. Of course, that this will not be possible, but with virtual reality, yes. And so Gaussian splatting is the current state of the art on making these 3D scenes possible. And so from a set of training images, we are able to learn how to represent our scene using 3D Gaussians. But there's a catch. because these 3D scene files are enormous. And so while the visuals are amazing, storing or sharing with someone can become a huge problem. And that's exactly what we tried to solve in our thesis. So how can we compress these 3D scenes without losing any of its juice? And how can we leverage years of research in coding to solve this problem? So that's exactly what we have done. We designed a novel codec for 3D content, where before applying a very smart image coding technique, we start by mapping all these Gaussian parameters into an array of 2D maps. And by doing this, we are able to reduce by 20 times the size of our files. Okay, let's try to understand the secret of our codec, which is this parameter mapping. So if we have a set of Gaussians representing our scene, each one defining many parameters, there are Gaussians that are more similar between them, and so we start by clustering them. Of course, that these clusters are represented by a set of Gaussians defined by a set of parameters, which can easily be arranged as 2D image blocks. And so now we only have to sort, by using nearest neighbor algorithm, these blocks into multiple block images and sort the Gaussians inside of each block. And by doing this, we are able to convert the initial set of 3D Gaussians into smooth and very easily compressible 2D images. And so by doing this, we are able to represent our scene with a much lighter version. And that's why I'm helping to make virtual reality accessible to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, meanwhile, we are setting up our chairs where we sit now. So I have to remember you that now all the members of the jury will evaluate the pitches, and at the end, the best pitch would be awarded with prize money that I think you will always know what it is. I think it's 1,000 euros. And there's the second and the third positions will also be awarded with 500 euros. So this is quite important, this evaluation. And the idea of each member of the jury to evaluate this session is to give you contributes for all of you to improve what you have done. Some were very good, some were not so good. But now we are going to hear what each member of the jury has to say.
Tenho no telemóvel. Escrevi notas no telemóvel porque pensava que ia ter o... Não, não tenho nada. Tá bem. Queres que comece eu, é isso? So, hello everybody. We were presented by Professor Miguel, so I will not... And you have the pictures, if you have doubts. Who are we? So the first thing I'd like to say is this is my 8th school across 3 countries. And the first thing I have to say is that Técnico students are amazing. So you are all amazing. You did great. And all of you, all the other students that did not did the pitch, you are all amazing. So one of the things that, it's true. And well, I'm an expert in science communication, so my role here at Técnico is to make sure that you are as amazing in communicating your science as you are actually doing it. So some of the things, that would be great, right? That's what I work for, so I hope that all of us together can build an army and change the world for the better, increasing scientific culture in our country and maybe worldwide. So not a small ambition. So in order to get there, there are some things that I can say, seeing across this 19 presentations, some of the things that some were already amazing, some there is room for improvement. So take it as suggestions. The first thing is about the slides that I can tell. I'm not a designer, but I can tell you a few pointers. One of the things is once you choose one type of font that you want to use the same font for everything, for the title and for the text and for everything. Don't use 2 or 3 types of fonts. That is not elegant and that is not nice for the viewer. Another thing, that you should choose a font that is not non-serifed. So for those of you not fluent in designerish, you know Times New Roman that has those things to the sides, in the bottom and on the top. Those are serifs, and that is very good if you're writing a Word document. That is not very good if you're using a slide that has to be read from a distance. So use like Arial, Colibri, whatever, a font that does not have those things sticking out because it decreases the visibility from afar. Another thing that is also important is to be aware of contrast, especially if you're not an expert in color mixing. Don't make up. And also remember, there's a percentage of the population that is colorblind. So do not mix red and green. Do not mix yellow and blue, because for some people that will not be seen as different. It will be seen as the same or be seen differently. So we need to be inclusive with everybody looking at our slides. So you have to help them understand what is going on. Another common mistake, or not very good, is to putting too many images in just one slide. I saw slides with 6 or 5 images. This is clearly too much. If you need to explain all those images to explain your research, then use one slide per image or a couple of images if they're connected. Do not use too many images in one slide. One thing that should be very, very normal, but it's not, is just to remember how to breathe. This, I will come to the part of when you're talking. If you don't breathe correctly, you will not be able to finish a sentence in a full inspiration. And so your breathing becomes shorter and your voice becomes thinner and everybody notices. So breathing is important. If you're getting nervous, please stop and have a drink of water. It helps to calm down and it helps to restore your breathing. And if you breathe right and if you feel right, everybody will accompany you and everybody will get to the end of your presentation and agree with me that Técnico students are amazing. Thank you so much.
Speaking after Joan is difficult because she is the expert and she touched a lot of points that I'd like to say also. Most of the presentations are excellent, okay? This is only some topics. The first one is non-verbal communication. I think is the weakest in general in the average presentations today. People are a little bit stuck to the micro, and you should feel more free, okay? More confident. When we are there watching you, we'll see if you are confident or not. This is one important thing, okay? In addition to all the others that is pointed here. Also, don't put too much in a slide. Not only pictures, but text. A slide, especially here in a pitch, you don't have a lot of time, must be catch at a glance, immediately. If not, it's not the best one you can do. I don't take a lot of time, but congratulations to everybody today, because it's a very hard work for the jury, because all the presentations are very, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. It's amazing to be here and to see the future generation doing so good pitches. And yeah, I took a few notes about some examples of what really captured my attention. So this is like a competition of people remembering you. Okay, so in the end, what happens is that among the 19 pitches, I think, is that some of you will be remembered in the end, which is unfair for the others, but that's reality. And I'm gonna use some examples of things that made the presentation memorable. So one was a presentation by Beatriz. She mentioned those city names. I don't know where Beatriz is, but she mentioned the long city names, and wow, that's captured. Wow, it's really. And how could she pronounce those names so accurately? So it was fun. It was a fun moment. Then Diogo took us through a travel through the universe, and it captured my imagination. It was also something that was memorable. Then Joana Santos mentioned I really liked the clarity of the slides and how they were animated and so on. So I was captured. So I was following the slides, and I completely agree that slides can be improved in many of your presentations. They are too noisy. That's something I always have to fight with typically research people, because they want to put all the info on the slide. But then in this kind of context, you should not do that, because if you put too much information in a slide, then people will not be listening to what you are saying. They will start getting lost in the slides. But okay, a few more examples. Yeah, Miguel mentioned the audience. I think I really like that part about the combination of AI with HPC. It's an area that I know better also. So I was okay. So I had a little bias about that, but I really like that getting closer to the audience. And then I don't remember who used that, but using an analogy is also something amazing. It was that presentation about the fire truck. I was completely driven by the narrative. So how could that be a fire truck? So where is it trying to get to? And using analogies is something great, because so analogies allow you to transform something complex into something very simple, because they bridge the gap, the knowledge gap, because you are all of you experts in your field, but as in the audience are not. And so it's very important to bridge that knowledge gap. And then let me just to finish a couple of more examples. Here, yeah. So this was analogies. Yeah, it was Pedro Gonçalves that did that, and then a few of you were lost in the problem. I didn't really understand what the problem you were solving, and you should always start either with the story. Okay, I'm here just to tell you a story, or about the story of the fire trucks and so on, or with the problem. Okay, if you don't make the problem very clear, then it's hard to understand why you are doing that, because people always want to understand the why, the reason of why you are here. Okay, and so sometimes I got lost in the problem. I didn't know where is it trying to get to. And then just to finish, yeah, for example, a good problem was the one that Sila presented about the fires in Portugal. I didn't have the idea of the scale of the fires. So half of the fires in Europe happened in Portugal. Was really impressive. I really like the connection with startups, but that's another bias. I really like to see research being driven into products and into the industry. And yeah, and essentially, I think that's it.
So hi everyone, I'm the last one. I just want to complement what a lot of my colleagues have already said, and I really want to start by congratulating everyone who stepped on this stage today, because it's really an act of courage. You're not communicators by nature, I guess, and so it's really exciting to see so many people taking up this challenge. I just have, like my colleague here, I just have some comments of things that impressed me and maybe some suggestions. So starting on what Paulo just said about metaphors or these analogies, I really think that is at the heart of when you are communicating something as complex as this, as a way to success, okay? The metaphors are essential. And a lot of you didn't really use any meaningful metaphor, but I will remember the fire truck analogy, that was brilliant. I will remember also this image of the compression of the orange juice. That was also memorable, and that stays with us, okay? And then a lot of you either have been watching TED Talks, but you're really good at starting with good hooks, okay, for your presentation. That's nice. But then I would also caution you to make sure that the hook really correlates to your message, because a lot of you used hooks and then they went nowhere, if you see what I mean. So they're not directly related to your work, or they weren't interactive. So it's really nice. I forget the name, sorry, but it was really nice, the presenter who talked about Alzheimer, that you actually had a question that we had to answer, okay? Because then that made it personal to our story. And about hooks, it's also really nice that a lot of you are trying to solve cancer, which is great, and all these diseases. But then it's not so nice when there's a lot of fear-mongering. So when you start your slide about how we're all going to die of cancer and what are all the statistics, and then we feel a bit helpless, and you don't send us a lifeline at the end of, like, how can we help, okay, because that's our instinct. And the other thing is, and my final comment is, this is an exercise of balancing a little bit of show and a little bit of depth of science content, right? And some presentations went a bit too overboard on the show, some a little bit too overboard on the depth. And a good balance, I think, is struck when some presenters really used scientific terms, but then they were able, either through analogies or through just definitions, explain to us in simple terms the methodologies that they were using and why they were using those methodologies. And that made it very easy to follow, but also we understood there was some real science going on in the backstage. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'm the last one to make some comments. First, about the slides quality. I liked very much, and I think it worked very well, if the background is dark and the letters are white. Some of you have a kind of a presentation like that. It seems to me more informative. I don't know, I like it more. But in respect to what really matters is that you provide a nice context at the beginning for what you are presenting. So where we are now, this is very important. Some of you have made it very well. So the context is very important. And then you have to tell a story. And you have to guarantee that everyone is following your story. That's the main point. But you have sometimes it's very technical. So sometimes some slides have too many information. And even if you want to tell a story, everyone is trying to look to the slide and trying to read what's there. And there's so many information that suddenly the slide is changed to the next one. And, what was that? I couldn't follow. So there should be a really clear relation between the pace of your talk with the amount of information that's in the slide and the guarantee that the people are following a given idea. That means that perhaps sometimes it's not a good idea to put everything immediately on the slide, but put it as long as you are talking. And some of the presentations have that. So information is appearing with a given time pace, and that is combined with the story that you're telling. I think this is a good way to capture the attention. I don't like to put formulas in the slides for such a presentation, 3 minutes. I think it's not a good idea to have formulas. Formulas, it's not what important is. What's important is capturing the attention to what matters and to tell a story. So, some other small remarks. Sometimes I understood that there was the opportunity to have a simpler slide, simple information for what you are explaining. If you put too much technical information, you need to explain it. And if you need to explain it, you have to take time. And if you take time, it could be boring. Some of you, I guess one of the presentations had one slide for 3 minutes or almost 3 minutes. Absolutely awful. No way. I mean, I read a slide, and it's the same slide, it's the same slide. Come on, give me some more. So I think this idea, you have to balance all that. And of course, talking is very important. Do not stop talking. Say something. But in the 3 minutes where everybody's looking at you, if you stop talking, it's not good. It's because it doesn't know what to say. So he lost. So it's not a good impression. Overall, what I think is that I think you are very good. In reality, you are doing a PhD. It's not easy. Sometimes the topic is not even, sometimes for you it's not even completely clear what you're doing. And you have made your best to give us in 3 minutes a glimpse of what is your dream of your work and what you wish to do and obtain. So thank you very much for your work, for your time, for your presentations, and I think you all deserve a big applause. Okay, so now this ends the session. The nominates, those the first, the second, and the third place would be announced at the closing ceremony, which will be held after the next session, which I will, of course, invite you to stay and hear. It's a very interesting topic, but it will be in Portuguese. So if those of you that don't understand Portuguese, I'm sorry for that. But anyway, you can stay. It's just 1 hour, so around around 5 o'clock. That will be the closing ceremony. It's around 5. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's a coffee break. Enjoy it. Thank you.